But if you read the news and watch TV like I do sometimes, there's a plenty of things going on in this world. One of the very interesting stories that, as we share at our dinner table a few days ago, earlier this week, was about a guy named Bill Hwang, Hwang, who lost $20 billion just in 2 days. My first reaction was, that's a lot of money. $20 billion, you know how many zeros we have? I mean, I have here, so I'm gonna count. 9 plus 2, 11 zeros after the 2, okay? $20 billion. But my second reaction was, who is this stupid guy? I think most people would, say something like that, or always ask that questions. So I looked him up. I looked him up in the last few days, not just to share, intentionally to share with you guys today, but it's really about understanding who this guy is. And I think I sent an article yesterday to the men's after our breakfast meeting. So I looked him up. So he's not that stupid at all. He's a very educated person. Went to UCLA, also got his MBA from Carnegie Mellon. So this guy, now he's a Korean American, very similar to some of us, immigrated here when he was very young. He's a founder of this hedge fund companies called Archegos. I'm not sure if I pronounced this correctly, but it's a Greek word, means that the one leads the way, and also means that God leads the way. Okay. He trades, his stock portfolios for his clients or for himself from his home, in New Jersey, and also he drives a Hyundai. But what's more interesting to me was, from what I found out, so he grew up in a Christian home, where his father was a pastor when he was younger. Father passed away during his earlier years. But in the more recent years, he had found his renewed faith in God. And he started this Bible reading group across regions, across cities, around the world, to read the Bible together. I don't know how they actually facilitate that, but that's what I saw on the YouTube videos. If you go to his YouTube videos, he has a few of them on YouTube by the ministries actually his sponsor. He's been looked at as somebody who's been very generous with his money and his wealth in the Christian circle. He donated a lot of money. I know right now people thinking that some of those money might not be very clean, but let's trust that he did it for the right reason. So why would God allow this kind of stuff happen to people like Bill? A Christ follower, at least based on what we have learned. The truth is, from my perspective, is that I don't know exactly why, but I know from reading the Bibles, there are plenty of reasons why God, allowed things to happen to people. So one of the reasons is, as you know, sometimes God used situations like this to humble the prideful. I'm not saying Bill, there's prideful. I know he got a lot of money. He did donate a lot of money to people. You can find out, how much money he actually made. I think at one point he was had $30 billion in assets, his own money. That's on paper, right? So a lot of us don't see our money, but for him, it's all in stocks in his investments. And second reason I see is that sometimes God use situation like this to strengthen somebody's faith, right? We learned that in the Bible. There's many stories like that. One of which is we learn is Job. So God tested Job in many instances. So also sometimes I believe that God is using situations like that to teach us believers to learn a lesson from situation like this, and so we don't have to go through the same hardship or problems like that ourselves, right? So for me, it's a great reminder, as also somebody who was interested in trading stocks or investing in stocks, not to focus too much of my time and energy in building my own earthly wealth. I can get carried away with it, as some of you guys know, just like a lot of people in this world can. And money and wealth, you know, that particular, topic, right? People struggle with it since the beginning of time. When we don't have a lot, we want more. When we have a lot, we also want more. So that's human nature. But as you know, but Jesus tell his people in this parable, I think you guys know very well, in the parable of the rich man in Luke 12, he tells his people that it's a warning. He said, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. So don't focus on money and wealth, those earthly possessions. It's so easy, but it's so easy for us to get into that temptations of making more money, making us more wealthy in many ways. We learned that recently in the last few sessions from Chip. I believe that there's nothing wrong with actually making money for many different reasons. But I also believe that God does not want us to spend time in building our wealth, for the earthly gain, for our own ambitions. So how do we combat against this type of temptations? Of course, we know that our weapon is the Word of God. As we read the Word of God, God will make things clear to us, like our purpose, our plan, and our perspective. Very important, perspective. Speaking of perspective, yesterday, our family had some time and decided to do a last-minute visit at Cypress Hill Cemetery. That's where my mom was buried many years ago. As we were driving past the cemetery and glancing at many of the tombstones on the way in and also on the way out, so we saw that some have lived a long life. And I think one of them we saw, I think Victoria pointed out, the person lived more than 100 years old. And some of them actually only lived for a few months. So we don't know how long we're going to be able to live in this place. But one of the things that kind of stuck out the most to me was who was buried in the same cemetery. In case you don't know who Jackie Robinson was, he was the first Black baseball player who played for a major league team, first Black. In fact, he was the first Black person to play for any major league sports in this country. That was a long time ago. That was 1947, which is more than 70 years ago. Back then, he had to endure a lot of hardships, a lot of attacks because the color of his skin. The screen, it shows that's his quote on the tombstone. This directly from Jackie Robinson. He says that a life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. He lived his life from 1919 to 1972. So total, number of years he lived on this earth was 53 years. To many standards, it's not a long time for somebody to live. But his impact he had on the people was immense. So as Christians, we are called to make an impact in this world as well. To make an impact, we will have to know who we are, very important. And also we have to know what our purpose is.